how I got to Formula One was I'm parked outside, I'm looking around, and then I see Toro Rosso. Hang on a minute, this is F1. 9 out of 10 people are going to get stuck in that 9 to 5 rat race with dreams of being able to do something bigger. I was one of those people. This is now the opportunity to be able to control what you want to do, when you want to do, and how you want to do it. Time and time again, knuckle down, keep focused, and just go for it. And you can go out and buy a supercar, but then you want it to be individual, you want it to be different. So here we are, GV Performance.
Hello everyone, my name is Simon De Beertis and welcome to the Faster Podcast, where we give you an insight into the lives of highly successful people from all walks of life and their secrets to success, as well as their stories and experiences. So today I'm joined with my very good friend Gee of GV Performance, probably by this point legendary tuning and car building shop. Honestly, Gee, I'll let you do an introduction on yourself. Let the people know what you're currently doing and what you're all about.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, like Simon, we met on The Great Escapes. I think that's the first time we got introduced to each other.
Amazing trip.
Yeah. And what happened is, at that time, I was still working for AlphaTauri. That's obviously the Red Bull team, Formula One, for the guys who follow that. So I was obviously a test and development sort of wind tunnel engineer there. So that was quite an, interesting part of my life, actually. I really enjoyed it. Speed, cars, pinnacle of engineering. And then, what's happened? We've had COVID. And wind tunnels obviously need people there when they're running. And then obviously there's been lots of cutbacks everywhere. So it was a redundancy from there. I didn't really know what I was going to do with myself, to be honest, after that. I mean, I know I was dabbling with cars. I think I touched on this, my own company, when we last met on the tour. So GV Performance sort of grew off the back of that. So rather than sit idle, I decided that I want to sort of get into sort of supercar servicing, maintaining, modifying, and, just doing bespoke stuff for people who want to look different. You can go out and buy a supercar. Anyone else can go and buy one, but then you want it to be individual. You want it to be different. So here we are, GV Performance.
And that's actually why this podcast is a little bit unique, because as you can see, we're in a gorgeous Lamborghini Huracan, but there is one issue. We're not driving. I'll let you tell everyone why that is.
We're not driving at the moment because this car is for a very special client. I mean, I can give you this, Buzzy. Everyone knows him quite well because he does a lot of crazy drag racing and everything. So he wasn't happy with 8-second, 8.9s, 8.8 second passes. So what he's decided to now do is we're in the middle of sort of getting this car prepped for him to be able to chase that 7-second mark. So I'm not really going to go too much into the details about it because obviously this will come out a little bit later, but let's just say this is going to be a monster build.
It's a top secret project. I'm actually going to overlay some footage now. But for those of you just listening to the podcast, this car has no engine. Because it's at the moment it's being built on and tuned for high performance. But obviously for those who aren't familiar with drag racing, what would a normal Lamborghini Huracan do in a quarter mile?
I think a normal Huracan, I mean, I've never taken a normal Huracan on a drag race. I think we did Harry's car, the twin turbo we built. We were doing 9.4s, and that was like a stage 2+. We were running around about sort of 1,200 wheel horsepower. So you can see, like, back in the day, everyone's goal used to be, I want a 10-second car. Now you can go out, buy one of these, strap some turbos to it, and go and be sub 10 seconds.
That's absolutely hilarious. That's how you know that this man builds monsters, absolute monsters, because when I asked him a question about a normal Huracan, he says, well, yeah, we had Harry's twin turbo, 1,200 horsepower. 1,200 horsepower it's crazy numbers. That's not normal.
But like, if you look at what manufacturers are doing, like SF90, what's that out of the box? It's close to 1,000 brake already, right? Yeah. So manufacturers are seeing that people are sort of looking for that extra oomph,
so cars are getting more and more and more powerful.
Like, the thing with the Huracan and the R8 platform, the beauty about it is there's so many companies out in the States. Obviously, I represent Sheepy Race. I do a lot. I've fitted quite a few of their kits now. If anyone knows Sheepy Race, you know what they're about. There's a lot of companies out in the States that are really starting to push the boundaries on this. So hats off to them. It's their R&D. They've done all the hard work and the legwork. We're just picking up from there. bringing the trend here and sort of trying to push that here ourselves. So, you know, I'm hoping there'll be a lot more people as crazy as Buzzy that wants to do crazy stuff on our drag tracks and everything. But coming from a Formula One background, drag racing is great, lovely, you know, 10 seconds, that thrill, you know, it's expensive, things break. I want to try and build cars primarily focused around track. So you can drive the car to a track, drive the car to a circuit, do some hot laps, get some times, and then drive back home again. That's where I'm trying to sort of emphasize a lot of my sort of knowledge and business into.
Which,
basically.
of course, takes a lot of skill to do, considering how much power you're running.
It is, yes, but there's plenty full of information out there. And as long as you're switched on and you listen to the advice given, use common sense, and actually, you know, it's difficult. I know people say to me, gee, you know, it's an amazing skill that you've got. But you know what it is? I've been doing it for so long. It's just like second nature now. Yeah. By no means am I saying that I'm the best at everything, right? I'm learning every single day. I'm learning every single day. There's something new to learn. So for me, I just look at it as just sort of keep refining yourself as you're going along. You know.
I feel like we skimmed over a very important detail of your life. So tell us a little bit more about your journey to working for an F1 team. How did you sort of, let's take it all the way back from school. Were you always into cars? Were you always sort of mechanically minded? What was that progression like, going from sort of leaving school all the way up to joining an F1 team?
Cars and just anything with a motor on it, I've got to sort of hats off to my dad. I was born in Kenya, Nairobi. My dad did a bit of rallying and everything as a privateer. I think that's where I got my exposure to cars and everything. So I've come from like a background where I was exposed to rallying quite a lot, you know. So I came here, moved to the UK in 91. You know, being from an Indian family, there's emphasis on just educating yourself to try and get yourself in a good job. Like, you know, just like a cliche, most of the thing is become an engineer, become a doctor, become an accountant. It's one of those. But I was quite lucky that my parents allowed me the freedom to choose what I wanted to do. I was like, right, I want to get into cars. I didn't know how to get into cars. I was feeling things myself, you know. Then I thought, okay, I'm going to go and do engineering at college because that will sort of get me lined up, get me sort of focused on the things that I need to do when it comes to this, right? The cars. Started doing engineering. And for a brief moment, I fell in love with the idea of wanting to become a pilot. So, yeah, Dad, I want to be a pilot. Mom, I want to be a pilot. Yeah, you need to first go and do your education first, and then you can look at that. You know, they didn't understand the concept of that. Nowadays, when you want to do something, you start at a young age. You sort of channel your energy into that and the resource into that. So, but they were still stuck in the mentality of that. No, you go do your education first. Once you've educated, then you can go out and do the things you want to do. I didn't want to lose time, so. All right, okay, pilot's not going to happen. So I kept on at engineering, went to Coventry University, did aerospace engineering there. I thought just try and keep that sort of passion alive a little bit. Aerospace engineering finished, and then I was like, I still want to further. Cars were still calling to me, right? Then I ended up saying, okay, let's do a master's. Do a master's in motorsport engineering management. That was really good. That got me that was a sort of the switching point from planes to cars. So I thought, right, okay, so aerodynamics on a car is just what you apply to a plane. Planes are kept up, cars are kept down. So, you know, I thought, all right, okay, let's get into the car side of things. Unfortunately, there was a couple of sort of complicated sort of personal circumstances. I lost my mum to cancer. Just shortly after that, more stuff like with my brother and everything. And it was just like a real downer. At that time, I was like, gosh, okay, what do I do now? Start focusing on family, see what's going on there. Formula One was a dream. I always thought of getting into Formula One. I never thought it would ever happen. I applied to McLaren after university for maybe 3 years on the trot. You'd always make selection day or the last cut.
So you can't just join, sorry to interrupt, you can't just join sort of as you would a normal company where they constantly pretty much hiring and things like that. You join per season, right?
Well, you can apply for it. So they normally put out a tender for what people they need, you know, because I think with Formula One, you got a quota. You have X amount of people that work in the back office and the R&D, the development side, and you've got the race team. So it's a head count, basically.
Okay.
So they're always on the lookout for young talent. Now, when I was in Formula One, what I realized, like how I got to Formula One was after the knockbacks from McLaren, I was like, okay, to hell with this. It's not happening. Every single person that seems to be getting the job, someone knows someone in there. Mum knows someone, dad knows someone, or there's affiliation with the team. There's connections, right? I said, that's not going to happen for me. So I just look, okay, let's forget about that. There was a local independent shop close to where I lived that was they're looking for mechanics. I was like, hang on a minute. Let me apply. Let's see. Because I didn't want to sort of sit around idle. Yeah. So I applied for it. I got the job. That job gave me exposure to the likes of Ferraris, McLarens, Lamborghinis. I learned most of my stuff when it came to supercars at this garage that, first gave me the opportunity.
How long were you there for?
I did that for 3 years, three and a half years.
And in the meantime, are you still sort of looking and applying for F1 jobs?
I'd given up on that. What I started doing was any little extra money that I was making, I started channeling into sort of flying lessons. So I thought I'm still
kept that dream alive.
I'm still adamant to at least get my PPL, be able to do recreational flying and what have you. And then just out of the blue, I got approached by an agency. They're like, we've got a place up in Oxford. They want to have an interview with you. Would you be interested to go up there? I said, but what does it entail? They go, it's a form of it's motorsport. They never really told me it's Formula One. They just said it's motorsport. So I think the lack of understanding on their part was another thing. So anyway, I've turned up to this interview. I've gone to Bicester, and I'm like, I know people talk about Bicester. It's normally about Bicester Village and fashion brands and clothing, right? So I'm in Bicester Village. I'm parked outside. I'm looking around, and then I see Toro Rosso, and I'm like, hang on a minute, this is F1. And in my head straight away, I was like, it's going to be one of those again. Go in, have an interview, all promising, and then about 10 people have applied, and then you'll be lucky if you get picked again. I was like, oh God, here we go again, right? Anyway, went in for the interview. My manager, obviously he was going to become my manager, but talking to him, it was so positive in how he encouraged me, and it gave me the break. And the only caveat in getting that break was night shifts. So I did 6 years of night shifts running in a wind tunnel. So anyone
the sacrifice.
Yeah. So people that watch the Drive to Survive series, right? I think what they show on there is probably just a fraction of what actually happens in there. It's so fast paced. It's so technical. It's crazy at the pace things move. I mean, it's funny I say this now. It's normally you engineer something, but you've engineered a problem, and then you spend time refining that problem to fix the problem, sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's what F1 is. But yeah, what an amazing experience! I didn't expect it. It was a wild ride. 9 years, amazing.
That's incredible. I think there's a big lesson in there for people. Is that first of all, you never know when the opportunity is going to come, right? And like you said, when you kept applying for those teams and you were getting pretty much nowhere from there, you thought, you know what, let me sharpen my skills elsewhere. Let me go work in a garage. Let me keep learning, keep studying. And like you said, this is the approach you take to most things in life in general. And then eventually when that big break came,
that's it,
you were ready. But even then, you had to take on that sacrifice. And it wasn't going to come easy.
No, it was literally 6 years, 6 years of night shifts.
Did that affect your health and stuff?
Towards the end, yes, it did start having an effect on my health. My weight was always constantly fluctuating. I found that I get ill a lot. Like, you go out and do some random activity and straight from that you pick up a cold or stuff. My immune system was all over the place. But you know what it was? The love for Formula One, the love for being in an environment where the technology is at the cutting edge was the bigger driver. And I
think that's what a lot of people don't see, right? I mean, everyone looks at the F1 drivers. Maybe they look at the main mechanics that are there during the race and things like that, but they don't see a lot of the.
I didn't see much of that, to be honest. I mean, like you'd have a race happen, Silverstone would happen, you'd then get a pass from the team, then you'd go in and you'd actually see what all the circus is about, right? I never really saw the glamorous side like that. When people talk to me about Formula One, having been in that Formula One circle, I know how much hard work the guys put in the background. There's a lot of people out there that sacrifice, time. You go in for a 9-hour shift, 14 hours later, you're still there.
Jeez.
It's a sacrifice. It's a young person's game. As you get older, other things start wanting to take priority, like family life, get settled down and everything. But the thing is, when you get stuck in that race where you just want to be part of this energy, this cycle, your whole personal life gets put on the side as well. So, I think then coming off the back of that, I think COVID, I don't think I would have left Formula One if it wasn't for COVID and redundancies. I think I would have still been there. But that happening, I think, was a changing point to like GV being sort of created. You know, I was flirted with the idea of let's start GV Performance. I want to do something with performance cars. I had a business prior to this briefly for about a year or 2 years. I had a power flow exhaust shop. At the time, it was a franchise. Didn't really quite work out. I think in 2007, 2008, there was a dip again in the economy. So people stopped spending. So that died off. And then I was a bit daunted about this. Like, you know, like you've seen my setup. I'm at home at the moment. I've got my garage, which is enough for, I look at it as a client one-to-one. Your car comes in, your car is the car I'm working on.
Of course.
And then it goes out and then the next car comes in. But things have grown so quickly that I'm now having to look at moving premises, which sort of is in the works now. I think by the time this podcast comes out, I believe I should be in my new unit and sort of operating from there.
That's a big progression considering when did GV sort of officially start as a company? Like you said, you flirted with the idea for a while. And when did you go full-time GV Performance?
2020.
2020. Yeah. So, and it's just 2 years and you're already moving into a bigger unit, you're expanding and you're responsible for some of the most powerful builds in the country.
It's so humbling, you know, like you work on these cars day in, day out. You can become immune to them. But then when you step back and then when you see when people or friends will come in or other clients like, oh, wow, did you work on that car? I'm like, yeah, what did you do on that? Done the exhaust on this. Oh, you can do that. I'm like, well, yeah. Like it's crazy. It just literally you end up being so immune to it because you're working on them and your hands on all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, like it's you really have to step back and think, pinch yourself. Like, hang on a minute. You're working with supercars here. Like in my head, I've got a goal. I would love to in the next three to 4 years be messing around with some sort of hypercar.
Yeah.
You know, like. Yeah, that's the kind of goal.
I think you're right. It goes back to what a lot of other people that we had in the podcast say the same thing. It's about having gratitude every day.
Yeah.
You wake up every morning and just being grateful for the ability to do what you do. But going back to the redundancy, I think this is another lesson for our listeners here is that you turn something that for most people would be a horrible point in their life into, like you said, almost a turning point and a switch for yourself to be like, okay, this is my sign to go full in on my dreams.
9 out of 10 people are going to get stuck in that 9 to 5 rat race.
Yeah.
With dreams of being successful, with dreams of being able to do something bigger. Now, I was one of those people, and I have to constantly keep reminding myself, this is now the opportunity to be able to control what you want to do, when you want to do it, and how you want to do it, and how quickly you want to get successful.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're working for a company, you can only be successful based on their criteria. Now, as an idea in Formula One, I was there nearly 9 years. In 9 years, the progression was negligible. I mean, like I wanted bigger things.
Yeah. But
you literally have to lick ass to get somewhere.
Yeah.
Put politely.
So it's a very political environment.
Very political environment. Very sort of cliquey environment. I mean, like personal experiences in there. If I was the type of person that would base things on emotion and everything, I think I would have left Formula One within the first 2 years.
So what kept the drive going? Was it the competitive spirit? Was it the fact that you were part of that sort of competitive drive with the team?
It's Formula One engineering at its best with cars, guys that go out there and do some, crazy things with the cars, the engineering, the technical know-how. I looked at it as being in university again, but in real life university where there's no, sir, can you help me?
Yeah.
You're literally, you have to figure it out. Like, there'll be times where you wouldn't even go and ask a question because you're too worried of being laughed at or being called stupid.
Yeah.
Like, but the thing is, when you go into an environment like that, like, no question is a stupid question. And I sort of live by that. When I have people come and ask me questions, I was like, I don't care how dumb the question is. Ask it. You're asking that question because you want to be sure about something. And if you're going to be made to feel like you can't ask a question for the fear of looking stupid, you're going to sort of stunt your growth. I mean, it happens with me. I mean, we work with some really big companies and like I've got into conversations where I'm trying to find out a bit more information about the product of how to fit it, install it, or, how to do things. And I'll ask myself 10 times, do you really want to ask that question? Or you're going to look stupid or dumb. But you know what? I'd rather look stupid and dumb, ask the question, verify what I need to do, than to put something on a car like this, goes down the road, it breaks down or causes damage, and then like, shit, should have asked that question.
That is powerful, right? Is like you said, the more successful you become, I think the harder it is for some people, especially if you got, you know, a huge ego, to keep that sort of beginner's mindset, right? That continuous ability to learn and study, and like you said, ask questions.
Exactly.
If someone, you know, even if someone's one step ahead of you, be like, can you help me out? And you know,
exactly. I mean, like I say, you're learning every single day. You don't know everything. You can sit there and pretend you know everything. You don't. You learn every single day. Experience is what teaches. I mean, are you really learning if you haven't failed?
So who would you say, from what I've heard so far, you're a lifetime learner. Who would you say some of the biggest influences in your life as far as your journey? So obviously you mentioned your dad, he got you into cars, but as far as other figures maybe in your job during the Formula One stage of your life, who were the inspirational figures and why were they?
I mean, always come down to my dad. Always a big shout out to him. That guy, he's always pushed me. Like, he'll put me in, if he's in an uncomfortable position, I'll ask him. He'll make, you know how parents have it, they make you feel so stupid, but then you still learn something. So that guy's given me the motivation to really go out there, excel and push him. Outside of the family environment, I've got my friends that support me, that are always sort of pushing me in the right direction. My old manager, Chloe, from when I was at Toro Rosso AlphaTauri, he was an amazing coach in terms of how to deal with these, you know, this sort of cliquey, sort of high tension, it's sort of, you know, sort of profile sort of areas, like, you know, like just keep your head down, ask the questions, just keep focusing, keep going towards the goal. And then recently in all this Formula One, this twin turbo game, Rocky and Buzz, we ended up meeting each other because we got called out for a competition, a drag race, and we were rivals. At the end of that, regardless of what the outcome was, it was a very close one, by the way. Regardless of the outcome, it was a best of 3 over the line. So I ran the car twice and Harry ran the car once. Yeah, let's just say that we weren't ready for drag races. We built the car for track, but the thing is, the bug hit me.
That's why you had to put in. It was a close one. That's
like the times were very close, very close. I've never done a drag event. I've never dragged a car at Santa Pod, and you're pulling like 9.4 seconds. Like, I'm sorry, I'm happy with that. I'm proud of that.
To Fast and Furious, I'm sure everyone's seen it. You know, where he says, you know, a win is win. Doesn't matter if it's an inch or a mile.
Yeah. So Buzzy and Rocky have been quite pivotal in this Lamborghini game for me. They've got connections so far-reaching, and that they've got so many knowledgeable people in their pool of like contacts. I'm literally every single day learning something new. I mean, like, you know, they've given me opportunities to work on their cars. Working on their cars gives me access to all these awesome people that are in the industry. So I'm not one of those that I don't want to work with that one. I'm happy to work with everyone. I just want to be able to learn something, you know, like progress a bit more, have the knowledge.
That's powerful, because I think if you come into any conversation with a lot of ego attached, especially if you're not as knowledgeable as the other person, they'll be able to see through that straight away, then, and they won't want to talk to you.
I've approached people here in the UK before getting into this twin turbo game. Approached quite a few people, and the way some people respond to you, you're like thinking, what a twat.
Yeah,
like,
no respect.
Was there any need for you to be so degrading? Like, you know, if you don't want to, just like, I'm busy, I really can't really help you with that. Like, they talk to you like you're just an idiot.
Yeah.
And that kind of lit the fire under my ass even more. Like, right, that's it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to prove you guys wrong. Right? Like, right now, yes, I'm a small brand. Yes, I'm trying to grow. Eventually, I want to be in a position where GV Performance is mentioned and people are like, you know what, that outfit there, I don't even want to be known as an individual. I want to be known as that outfit there.
The brand.
That brand there. They are some really nice people. They have good knowledge and they've got a very good connection. I think that's what makes a business successful.
And I think that's the beauty of it, right? If you, as an owner, as the CEO, if you're a nice guy, if you're a trustworthy guy, you're a humble guy, you're not going to have people around you who aren't the same way. So I think it always trickles down from the top, right?
This is it.
I mean, if you have a company where a CEO, you know, maybe is dishonest and he doesn't respect his client, and you know when they create these bills, they're dodgy bills, every employee is going to follow suit because they know that's what's acceptable in the company. So I think
laziness comes into it. I don't think anyone starts their business with the intention of being sloppy or whatever, right? I'm so scared on taking on any employees at the moment because I set such a high standard for myself. I would expect nothing less from the guys working with me or working for me, right? And this is where I think it's key. Not working for me, I want them to be working with me. I need my employee or the people working with me to feel empowered. I don't want them to feel that they're underneath me. Now, if I can set that sort of work environment, I think that's more fruitful because then each individual that I employ will then want to take on that same responsibility as like, I want to help this grow. Like, I'm not here to do a 9 to 5. I don't want to be here. You know?
Yeah, of course. No, it's that's the thing. And it goes back to the same thing. That's like, you have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to take on new information, obviously work hard. But that's actually what I've realized now that I even spoke to you when I pulled up to film the podcast, is that you see it on a lot of these TV shows, right? There's a ton of these TV shows about building cars. They're always working against deadlines. And it's always like, last 10 minutes, they screwing in the last part. But it is a big part of the game, right? So how do you deal with that? Because as a professional, you can't wake up one day because it is your business and be like, oh, I can't be asked. I'm going to lay on the sofa today. How do you make sure that the bills do get done on time? Does that?
I think that comes down to, it is a bit of discipline and it is the drive, because you're not going to be successful. You're not going to be competitive if you're going to be sitting on the back burner all the time, right? You've got to push. Even like, take a project, for example. There's been times in the past, this time is a teacher. I've been involved in projects before where I've got such a head start on it. Like, you know what? I can relax a little bit now. I'm all right. I'm okay. Next thing you know, boom, you got 4 days to do it. Then it's like a rat race to get everything done. That in itself is a teacher. Trust me, we've all been there. We've all done it. But now it's a case of, if you got a head start on something, you got to keep that mindset and you got to keep pushing. It's always better to overquote a time and under deliver on that time. So let's say if I said 2 weeks and then about a week's and a half time, I'm calling you, hey, your car's ready. That's always better. Mind that. Exactly. It's always better than like, you know what? Sorry, it's going to take a little bit longer. That's always a disheartening phone call to do. I've been in situations like that where I thought, you know what? It's going to take this long. We'll get it done. And next thing you know, you've not planned for unforeseen things that are happening.
And they always happen.
And they always happen. So like now I've taught myself, work out the time scale of what it's going to be, add a buffer to it, and then quote that time. Because if you can deliver below that time scale that you've quoted, you're always going to have a happy customer.
Yeah.
If you don't go a little bit over that, we all like that. We go somewhere, we want to get something done. You're like, but you said it'll get done at this time. We're all the same, right?
Things happen.
Yeah. So, I mean, like eventually, so once we grow a little bit more, then you can have dedicated staff and then you can start allocating.
If you look around your shop, Huracan seems to be your primary sort of platform of building these high performance builds. Is there a reason to that, as far as like, if we think about all the other supercars in that price range, why the Huracan?
I think the Huracans and the R8s are quite affordable, and there's a lot of R&D, a lot of stuff available out there already that the Americans have proven. We always find America's always 5 years ahead, sort of give or take on the curve of things. They're always ahead a little bit. So this is the next platform, like we had the GTRs and your RS turbos and stuff back in the day. This is the next generation. This is where things are going to be happening. It's the sort of German VW sort of build quality. They're quite reliable cars out of the box. I mean, like, we're strapping twin turbo stage 1 kits to a stock engine and a stock gearbox and going out there and having fun. I mean, back in the day, you remember? Put something on, go down the road, a hose pipe will blow. So I think reliability and the robustness of the platform is going to help it grow.
So as far as reliability, let's say for someone who's watching this podcast and they're one of the few individuals who worked hard enough throughout their life that are now saying, okay, I want to buy an R8 or a Huracan, and maybe I'm going to buy a used one because they're a little bit cheaper. What are some things on these cars that you should always have a good look at before you pull the trigger on buying a car?
I mean, I think with the Huracans, they are generally quite bulletproof. I mean, most of them are going to be coming out of a service loop from the dealership, so they've been well built. Yeah, they've got very good service history. Just obviously regular oil changes and everything, and the things to look out for is just maintenance. Really, if you're spending the money on these cars, I don't really have anything to say in terms of unreliability on these cars. I know there's been a couple of cases where people have said there's software updates have caused gearbox problems or things like that, but I've yet to come across a car that's been unreliable.
Did you hear the whole thing about Ferrari being sort of accused of messing with people's ECUs if they find out they have aftermarket parts on there?
Now, this was seen on a channel somewhere. I've seen it. I think it comes down to.
I think even RDBLA mentioned it, that they put on an exhaust
and it didn't run right. Yes.
And it didn't run right straight away, and then they take off the exhaust and everything's well and pretty. Yeah,
so I think manufacturers are sort of starting to make their cars so that they don't get tampered with. But I think the tuner market is strong enough to get around these things. They'll always find a way around it.
Do you think some of it is justified? Have you ever, obviously, I'm sure you have you heard of sort of cowboy builds of people building supercars where they shouldn't be?
This is where I think that's quite beneficial, because not everyone's going to be able to work on these cars. Yeah. Only people that have acquired knowledge or got the right connections to understand what's going on will be able to modify them, which then brings the quality of modification, the quality of aftermarket works done on a car to a higher level. Because there's people out there that, let's face it, they'll strap. I've had cars come into me from other shops, and I've looked at it and I was like, shit, I would not even allow that to go out with my name on it. And it's quite scary.
It's dangerous, yeah.
It is, like, like just little things, and you're like, okay, maybe I'm a bit too critical. And I've spoken to a couple of people. They're like, yeah, gee, sometimes you are a little bit over the top. I'd rather be over the top. This is someone spending 160 grand on a car. Last thing they want to do is find wrong clips or wrong things on there, or things not done the right way, because sooner or later, someone else is going to work on that car. This is what scares me the most. Well, it doesn't scare me, but this is the thing I'm always conscious about. The car that I work on will eventually end up at a different garage, another place. You want to try and minimize the opportunity for the other garage to sort of pick holes in your work or point a finger at you.
Yeah, it keeps you on your toes.
I do a lot of this. When I'm working on a car, I harass my customers on WhatsApp. I found this, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. I want to make sure I've covered myself.
Yeah, they need to be aware that it was there when you found, exactly, and it wasn't you who's done it.
And this is not trying to drop other shops into it. Like, listen, at the end of the day, I've started up. I'm hands-on right now myself. There's nothing to say. 5 years down the line, I've got 2 staff members working for me, and they cut corners. I don't know nothing about it. And the only time I'm going to find out about it when the car goes out and then it breaks down.
Yeah,
so I think the thing it comes down to is, as a business or as a shop that works on these cars, is how you put the problem right. We could sit there and start pointing fingers, blaming, and getting into discussions, but the aim of the game is get the car put right, get it out, and try and put a product out there which is going to have less chance of breaking down. I think that's where I want to sort of keep GV focused on. I want quality going out the door rather than quantity.
Okay, so if let's say if someone comes in with a stock Huracan right now and says, I want a bit more power, what would you say is a good sort of budget build at first? What would you name as sort of the basic?
So the very basic thing I would say, let's say you've come into me like, gee, I want to get this, I want a little bit more. I'd say, okay, well, first ask, is it power or is it the looks you're looking at? You'll say to me, I want power. I'll say, right, to start off, basically, let's give the car a remap. It unleashes a little bit more. It's not detrimental.
So how much gain would you expect just from a remap?
A remap, I think you're looking around about sort of 20 horsepower. Okay. Nothing crazy, nothing big, just a touch. The thing, I work with I'm a sort of distributor, authorized trader for VisU Technologies. Now, there's companies out there that'll do crazy maps that sort of push the boundaries on the car. With the reason why I chose to go with VisU is their maps are backed by a guarantee. If the map they put on your car damages your car, their insurance will cover the damages. And that's the kind of quality I want to be able to sort of confidence I want to be able to give the customer to be able to, go out, get it modified and not have to worry about the car blowing up, right?
Yeah.
So you start with a remap.
And then
we do custom exhaust systems.
Yeah.
So, we can get a little bit louder on the car.
We'll touch on that because you did have a very special exhaust system that you recently built, but I'll let you carry on. So the exhaust is next.
Okay, we'll do the exhaust. And the next thing is go for stance. Just put a decent set of springs on the car. There's a lot of cheap stuff out there on these cars. Cars look good, but when you drive them, they're like boats,
Probably wouldn't want to put cheap springs on a car.
You'll be surprised.
£150,000 car.
You will be surprised. You'll be surprised. There's people out there, they'll go buy the car, but they don't want to spend the money on putting a quality product on their car.
And it's a bit strange. Have you ever had to have a conversation with a client where you're like, yeah, I get that you're trying to save a bit of money, but like on a car like this, you do want quality stuff.
You do have this conversation, but then majority of them, so the way I've seen it is, and it's, they'll put something on cheap and they'll be like, okay, that's not working.
Yeah, it's
for me
not
now.
working
I need to
out.
get that. So you just spend money on that.
You pay twice.
You pay twice, exactly.
You buy the cheap one, then eventually you still end up buying the expensive one.
So we tried to Novatec a really good brand out there. KW is a good brand. There's a couple of other brands. HR Springs.
What do you think is the best sounding exhaust system for a Huracan, in your opinion?
It's best sounding.
Or the best one you ever fitted?
The one that I built.
So fully custom, you do the whole thing?
Fully custom, yeah. I've got a really good fabricator that works with me. I'll design the system to what I think I want it to be or how I want it to be.
How do you even go about that though? That's to me, that's quite interesting, right? Because we hear all these cars sounding absolutely amazing, but it's almost like you're an artist, right? How do you go about creating that sound?
So the thing is,
what's the process like?
I would love to explain exactly what goes behind it, but that's
trade secret.
That's a trade secret. Thing is, you can put the biggest exhaust system on there. Next thing you know, you've messed around with the car's back pressure. You'll make less power, more sound. There's things you got to take into account. A manufacturer has put an exhaust system on this car. It's a performance car. It's not just a substandard system. They've put a system on it so that it caters for performance and caters for looking after your neighbor's ears.
So what are you saying? I can't buy it at Halford?
No, you can't. Well, you got Quicksilver. Look at it. Like if you look at it, Quicksilver, you've got Acapoic. If you look at their systems, you're paying close to 10 grand. There's a reason why you're paying 10 grand. It's not just because of a named brand. There's R&D that's gone into it to make sure that system works. Now, FabSpeed's another company that puts a lot of R&D time, and they use dyno to prove the
I think that's a good point that you touched on. It's not the part that you pay for. It's the research behind it, right? That's what you pay for.
So, but most of my systems are based on, like I said, I used to have a Top Gear franchise. I used to do power flow exhaust. So I've gone out there and I've done a course on understanding exhaust systems, You can't just throw anything on a car. You've got to understand how that system works.
So that's the sort of basic, if you can call it that, build. Okay, now how would you build a car if I came to you and I said, okay, here's my Huracan, and you have a blank check. What's your dream build?
Dream build? It'd be like a twin turbo, 1200 horsepower, running on ethanol, stanced and ready for sort of track action. So you do all the geo and you do all the suspension.
So 1200 horsepower, would that still be in your category of sort of cars that you could potentially drive on day-to-day basis?
You can, because you're never going to have 1200 horsepower on tap all the time. You need a specific fuel for it. Obviously, I've only just started learning all of these things. I'm educating myself as I go along. On stock fuel, it's only safe to run, like on these turbo applications, you run about 800 horsepower, 850. You can push to 900, but you're really knocking on the rails of, do you really want to be driving around a grenade? No. So then obviously you then go into sort of, flex fuel, ethanol fuels and everything, which sort of, keep the engine cool a little bit, have better burn properties and everything. And, things can be managed a bit better. Like, most of my knowledge I've acquired on this is by sort of listening and looking at what some of the big guys are out there are doing. Like I'd say what I'm learning so far is just scratching the surface. So the more and more I get into this, the more and more the understanding would get. But at 1200 horsepower, I don't think you'd want more than that.
Don't think you'd need more, right?
It
depends what you do, I guess.
I mean, if I sit in a normal Huracan and I go out there and I'm like, where's the rest of it?
It ruined supercars for you.
It has. Now there's one client who came in. He said, I really want to sort of get a Huracan. I'll do the twin turbo eventually, but which Huracan should I buy? And I'm like, at that time, Harry's twin turbo was here. And I was like, yeah, well, we're not going out in that because your expectations are going to be totally, warped. You need to go out and experience a car properly for what it is before you get into that. And he's like, all right, not a problem. And then my first twin turbo customer, Ollie, he came down. I think he asked about it. He asked quite a lot of questions. He's done a lot of market research himself and everything. And when he came out, at that time, Harry's car, we were running 1200. We hadn't sort of got it tuned to another level yet. We hadn't gone further on it yet. So he came over. We went out for a drive. Literally came out of here. We've gone down towards the A40. I've put my foot down, and this is, bear in mind, we're not even running ethanol on it, so it wasn't even running 1200 brake. It was probably around about 900 because we had a mixture of fuel in it. He was sold. He came back, and he was just like when we're okay, I'm ready to put a deposit down, and I think that's how it kicked off. Really, I think that just suckered him into getting it. So. And I said to him, I go, why don't you go for the 1200 brake? He goes, no, at 900, 800, 900, I'm happy at that because it's usable. I can live with it and I can drive the car every day.
That is incredible, though, that they engineered the platform like the Huracan. They can very comfortably be pushing those kind of numbers and still be daily drivable, because we have to realize that these cars are still manufactured for the general sort of driver, right? Obviously, they're with very wealthy customers, but it's still your everyday drivers, right? And a lot of people especially make the bulk of their sort of money towards the end of their careers, you know, if they're in jobs or maybe they're older entrepreneurs. Of course, there's a lot of young guys who own these cars and stuff like that, but you still have to make a car that is not trying to kill you every now and then.
Well, look, any car, you can go out in any car and have a stupid accident, hurt someone and hurt yourself, right? I guess it's... We didn't start off on these cars. We started off in smaller cars. You know, we've learned from it. We've all had accidents. We've all, you know, broken cars. We've had silly moments. You learn, you get better at it. I mean, I actually sort of started learning how to get better car control. Not that I'm saying I'm a great driver. I started doing go-karting. I went out go-karting once with my colleague, Jono. I was fucking hopeless. I was useless. I was like, I never want to sit in a go-kart again. This is ridiculous. I just kept
you go a little bit.
Yeah, it was just like, I can drive, but I can't drive. I mean, that, and then he said to me, Gee, if you want to learn how to do go-karting, we need to go out when it's wet. And I'm like, I'm fucking absolutely useless in the dry. Why would I want to go out in the wet? So he takes me out, we go around Wilton Mills, and we've bought a cart together now. We go around karting and everything. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I can't do it. He goes, just trust me. I think the following summer, went out in a dry, and I was like, it was night and day. I was like, wow, I'm enjoying this. I want to go faster. It was crazy. It was amazing. So, you know, that's just doing the go-karting ended up giving me appreciation of control and handling. And then when you then take the bare basics from that and then start applying it to a car, you know, you can start to understand it a bit better. A car's just, you know, a bit more, you've got more sort of control, more components on it and everything. But to be able to do, like, to throw a car around, so go do go-karting. I don't know, maybe it's just me. I don't know. Maybe people say, like, oh, he's talking nonsense. But for me, if I'm going to go out and do a fast car or something, I'd actually go out and do a week before. I'd just go out and do a bit of go-karting.
I think they're very much transferable skills. I mean, it is driving, and like you said, it's the control, it's how you deal with inertia and things like that. And you even mentioned to me earlier when you were saying that as someone who's very mechanically minded, you feel the car differently, right? You have different respect for it, because if you don't respect it, then you can get hurt.
Yeah, because in a go-kart, there's no suspension.
Yeah,
there's no suspension. You're like this far away from the ground.
Everything feels 10 times faster.
Everything feels 10 times faster, and it teaches you to feel and think. Whereas when you jump in a car, now how many of these kids have gone out there? They've been able to afford a car. It can just be a M3, RS6, RS3, whatever it is. They get the car, they're like, yeah, you know, they automatically sit in the car, think, I'm a better driver. You go around the corner and you see it all over Instagram and YouTube, XYZ crashes a car. That's because, you know, just you get false sort of feeling of that this car's going to be the most amazing thing just because it's a M car.
Were you ever in any supercar where you felt like, whoa, this is a lot sort of stock? Or not even stock, or like modified or whatever, where you kind of had to fight it a little bit, and you had like
I think when I started doing with our sheepy build, the shop build that we did, we used to do a lot of road mapping. Well, we did a lot of road mapping on it because I can't yet get a rolling road. That's sort of the next sort of investment that needs to be done into investment. It's quite a large investment. But we road mapped the car, so it was quite true to the fact of how you drive and what feedback the tuner was seeing. Alex at that time was remoting in, and he would sort of check and modify the map and whatever, so make the car a bit more drivable.
Yeah,
that's when I literally felt, wow, this is amazing. Like, you're doing these pulls out, and I would go on a nice closed bit of not main highway. You'd go
private
roads, and then you sort of push the car to the limit. That's when I thought, wow, this is amazing. This twin turbo scene is something else. It is something else. I mean, stock cars, I've been on track days with Lamborghini where you go around, they arrange for everything, and you go around in the different cars and experience them. But I think to really truly experience these cars is to either get one yourself and then slowly start the modification journey and start going to track days. I think that's where you start really understanding your car safely.
That's really interesting. So that's all your journey now. But again, I'm gonna go backwards a little bit. When you were talking about that hard period of your life, when you said when you had a loss in your family, what pushed you? Because again, we all have hard times in our life. What sort of kept you on track and kept you going towards your dreams and towards your goals during a time like that? Because of course this is a very serious thing to go through, and to not let it drop you down completely and keep pushing.
I think the key around that, to help you around through sort of situation like that, is good friends and family around you. I mean, I've been blessed with some amazing friends around me, and like family as well. I mean, it was a hard time. When I went to university, I still had my grandparents. I went to university, I was really close with my grandparents, lost my grandparents. That was quite sort of a downer in my life. I was like, I don't want to even be at university. What's the use of this? What's the point of all of this? Anyway, so the focus on like friends just helping you, just remind you, you want to do this, you want to do that. Just keep at it. Don't worry. Just, keep going. So I've gone to university, lost my grandparents, but then sort of worked through it, kept focus on my goal, because, my granddad always said, you want to do your own business. You don't want to work for someone. You then always make sure you know more than one skill.
Was he sort of business minded?
Very business minded.
Did he have his own business?
Very business minded. So in Kenya, my family's trade was carpentry. So, so it was like carpentry and engineering. So my dad would be the engineering side, air conditioning and that sort of thing. Then my uncle was in building work and everything. And then my granddad was into sort of carpentry and that. So from a young age, I've had an influence of very sort of hands-on.
You've been surrounded by it.
Yeah. Then university finishes, and then obviously you get this shocking news about my mum. So like, great, okay. I mean, like, I think losing your grandparents, you kind of expect it because they're older. It's so
natural, all the things that you kind of...
Your parents, like, that kind of hits hard. It hits home. So losing mum through that was quite difficult. I think what the real kick in the nuts was, my brother got diagnosed with cancer as well. Literally a year after that. I mean, my mind frame was fried. Honestly, I actually remember I went to see him at the hospital. I just couldn't bear to see him how he was. And I was like, if something happens to him, I'm going to throw myself off a bridge or something, I mean, like, it was the lowest point of my life. But then when he pulled through, and then even he was like, you know what, you should be, just keep at it. Just keep focused, Just the drive to not let these people down. It's just
unbelievable.
It literally does. I mean, like, it's amazing what the human mind's like. You could sit there, be depressed all the time, or you can snap out of it and really start pushing for it, I think willpower.
I mean, we all get those moments, but like when you were feeling at the lowest point, and you said you were even sort of saying, "Oh, I'm going to throw myself off bridge," stuff like that.
Yeah.
How did you reach out to your friends? Did you?
No, I didn't. At that time, I was very closed off. I came home. I remember coming home. Brother was home. The treatment had happened.
Yeah.
And then out of the blue, he's had a pneumonia attack. And what sunk into me at that time was, I saw my dad sat next to my brother, and I was just like, shit, we're blessed in so many ways. We've got everything we want, but life is so precious, right? I'm sitting there watching my dad. So he's just lost his partner. He's lost his partner. And within a year, his youngest son is now going through this. And I'm like, shit, I was there thinking about something happens to my brother being selfish. I'm going to go throw myself off a bridge. Like, what the hell? You know, like what is that man going to be going through? You know, that kind of just gets you snapped out of that mind frame and that. And I literally thought to myself, I give it, you know what? You've got to make the most of life. You've got to push. You know, I think I'm quite calculated. A lot of people that know me will say you calculate way too much. You sometimes need to be quite sort of spontaneous. I think GV Performance is the most spontaneous thing I've done actually today.
And look where that led.
It's going in the right direction. It's challenging. It's trying. It's testing. But you know what? I'm not stopping till I get to the other side.
That's amazing. So what would you say to someone that's currently on the fence? Maybe they have a skill set or something and they're thinking of going out and doing their own thing, but they're like you, they're very calculated. They're thinking of all these ways how it can go bad in their head. What pushed you to just, other than obviously the redundancy at the AlphaTauri and things like that, but what pushed you to really sort of just hammer down and be like, no, I'm doing this. Like I'm not gonna back out.
Literally looking at the past everything that I've gone on in the past, I've always calculated or I've always tried to factor in things, and the outcomes you're always in the same place. In fact, you end up holding yourself back. And I just said to myself, you know what? I'm going for this hell and level. Like even now, there's been times where like, how am I going to, like, we're in a financial situation right now. Like bills are going up, cost of living is going up, fuel's bloody ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, every time you turn the news on, there's always something depressing. Oh my God, it's a heat wave. Oh my God, there's going to be a storm. Oh my God, this is like, what the, like, you've literally, if you end up sort of putting yourself in a frame of mind where everything else is going around you, you're going to miss opportunities. And I have to keep telling myself time and time again, knuckle down, keep focused, and just go for it. You have to just go for it. You know, I think you have to be your own motivator. You've got to really sort of help yourself snap out of things.
You're right. I think if you always focused on the news, you're always seeing all these negative things happening in the world. It's very dangerous because it puts you in a negative headspace. And as someone who's and I will even say it, I think you're a creative person, because even to create these kind of cars, you have to have not only a very calculated side, but you also have to have a creative side. And imagine these builds before they manifest themselves and before they happen. So like you said, and you're a very jolly, very happy person on the surface, and everyone who knows you, I'm sure, would agree to that. But at the same time, like, we all have our struggles, but like you said, don't add to that, right? By taking in all the negative stuff from the news, from other people, from social media, from, you know, whatever, gossip and things like that.
This is it. You've got to be able to sort of just find a target, aim at it, and just go for it. And you know what? I've actually I'm trying to teach myself these things, because it's great. People give you advice, you never take it on. You give people advice, you never take your own advice. And like now you're in a situation where everyone is battling their own survival and what they want to do. Everyone's battling to keep their house. Everyone's battling to keep their partner. Everyone's battling to keep their job. Everyone's in a fight. So you've just got to knuckle down, focus, and just go for it. I mean, going on the tours, like, that's how I first met you. Going on the tours has been a big motivator for me. I've gone on a tour just to sort of blow some steam off. It ended up being like, you know, Simon just ended up becoming a technical partner, looking after the cars on the tour.
Yeah.
And that's just gone from strength to strength as well. And I've met some awesome people. I mean, like, you know,
big shout out to Simon from The Great Escapes.
Yeah,
that was an amazing tour. We went over across Europe with a bunch of supercars, and I still remember the first time I met G. This guy pulled up in a shop truck, which, if you want to let people know what truck,
it's a Ford F-150 Lightning,
which is not something you see in the UK.
No.
And I heard him before I saw him, and I was like, I asked Simon, I was like, who's this guy? He's like, oh yeah, he's going to be going with us, and he used to be an engineer for an F1 team. And I was like, where'd you find these people?
I remember that was Goodwood, wasn't it? And we turned up really late.
And it was like middle of the night, and these guys jump out of a car, and I was like, holy shit, that's not an engineer, is it? Just big dudes. Just rough looking guys start pulling out tools and stuff at like 2 a.m. in the morning.
They're probably coming to fucking steal these cars.
2 a.m. in the morning. But outside of your sort of appearance, because you're a very big looking guy, you're an absolute teddy bear. You're always, throughout the whole tour, you're smiling, you're laughing. So that's all your past, and we got to where you are now in the journey. What does the future look like? Obviously, you have the new shop, but what you actually mentioned, of course, your knowledge is mainly based around not even engine builds, aerodynamic side of things, right? So is that something that you guys are going to be looking into in the future with GV Performance?
Yeah, I mean, this is why I want to go track focused with our builds. Like, if I've got clients that are willing to sort of entertain that idea. I mean, eventually we will end up doing a couple of shop builds. The thing is, what I really want to emphasize is here, when I say a shop build, it doesn't necessarily have to be a Huracan. It doesn't have to be a supercar. It could be anything. You can have fun in anything. So there's a couple of projects we've got in the pipeline, some old school cars. I can see old school cars are starting to make a comeback as well. Went to the Great Escapes again. I was at Top Marks in Monaco. I went in there and you got cars, retro cars like Porsche that refit with, electric motors and stuff like that. That's
resto
mod. I think that is the next sort of, for the people that want to sort of have the nice things and be able to go out and cruise. That's another market to tap into. But then obviously we've got a couple of other cars where we'd like to go and shock some of these big ticket cars at a drag strip. We've got a couple of those in the pipeline at the moment. The thing is, ideas are great. They need funding. So, slowly but surely. I mean, I showed you the Mark II project at the moment that we're doing, the Golf Mark II. There's that project going on. There's an idea to do with the
because you do also do work on a lot of classic golfs, right?
Yes.
And when I came to the shop today, I was like, where all these golfs come from? And you're like, yeah, that's what I do. I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah. I think I need to sort of, obviously the website's live now. I was supposed to put a YouTube channel out a year ago, but I can't.
I mean, you are very busy.
Yeah,
you're one-man operation.
One-man operation.
And that attention to detail comes at a cost, right? You can't be spread too thin
across. Yeah. I mean, like, I've got D, D anyway, so he's going to be jumping on board. So I'm going to get him to take care of all the business affairs side of things, the bookings, the invoicing, the projects, and he's got a very good eye. Like he said to me, the twin turbo Huracan market, the R8s, everyone's doing it now. The traction's gone on it. You want to look at the next thing. I was like, well, what else is there? I mean, like twin turbo Lambos, come on. He's like, you want to look at the V12s? I'm like, well, what can I do in a V12? I don't think I want to get into a V12. He's like, Gintani are doing some crazy stuff. Lo and behold, I've done a Gintani exhaust, and I've got another one on the way, and actually got two on the way, one SV and SVJ as well. I mean, when I was out there, and there's so many Alexes. There's Alex Soto from Sheepy Race. There's Alex from Gintani. So he took me out in an SVJ they've done. I think I sent you the video.
Yeah, send me the clip. It's ridiculous.
Oh my God.
It's the loudest Lamborghini I've ever heard, and I've heard plenty.
And I've done loud cars. I mean, I did the R8 with a Performante center exit exhaust, which I think people can see on my Instagram as well, the yellow one. I thought that was loud. But standing next to a Gintani, it makes your insides vibrate. It's visceral. It's unreal.
Yeah.
It makes that V12 come alive. So, done a couple of those now. So there's always a lookout. What's the next thing we can do?
And I know we also spoke about it. You're going to be ramping up your media presence.
Yeah. Well, again, like I said, I've got all the bits in place. The website's live. I've got the vlog page ready. I've got the Instagram registered. The YouTube registered, but I just haven't put anything out there. I was just showing you how much media I've got. I've got so much media. It's like, where do I start now?
Yeah.
I think I'll probably have to reach out and find someone.
That's the thing. So little segue, if you're based in London and you're young and a sort of videographer and photographer in automotive space and you want the opportunity of a lifetime, you reach out to this guy at Gee Performance and you send him a little introduction of what you do, because this is early days of what is going to be no doubt the biggest performance house in the UK. I mean, with a man like that behind the wheel, it's gonna be growing and expanding, and sooner or later I'm gonna be filming this podcast in this huge unit somewhere and he's gonna be like, oh yeah, we got 50 cars lined up for builds and things like that. It's only a matter of time, because I see how hardworking you are. I see your attention to detail. I see how well you've been representing yourself in the industry, because people, if you don't know G and you speak to anyone in the industry, the only things that people have to say are nice things about this man. And there is a reason for that. It's because he's got genuine passion for his builds.
This is it. We have to look after everyone. I mean, I've been really lucky. I've been blessed with the people that have been around. I mean, I've met yourself, Michael, I've got the Great Escapes guys, Rocky and Buzz have done a lot. Harry, I've got to give a big shout out to Harry. If it wasn't for his cars, no one would know who I am. It's his cars that have put me on the map there. So he started the momentum for me, and then it's just gradually grown. I've just been lucky to have nice people around me, and that's what I want to just keep it going. You know, just keep it humble. I'm learning every day. I don't care if you're older or younger than me, but if you've got sound advice to give me, I'm always ears and listening to it. You know, collaborations that's where we grow. You know, let's collaborate, let's grow together. You know, and ultimately just have fun.
Absolutely. I'm very grateful for your time today. And just before we go, if you stayed with us this far, please leave a like, subscribe to our channel, just to say a little thank you to G here for spending an hour with us today. And also, how do people reach out to you if they want a build done for them? What are your social media handles and what's the best way to get to you?
So obviously GV Performance is my Instagram. You can drop me a message directly through the DMs there. I've also got a WhatsApp number on there, which will just come straight directly to me. Or you can also reach out us at info@gvperformance.co.uk.
That's fantastic. That's it for today from us. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you, G.
Thank you,
It's been
Simon.
an absolute pleasure. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.
Goodbye.